Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Genghis Cohen in the house.
Hey guys, how's it going?
What are we saying, my man? You good?
Yeah, great, mate. Awesome.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, it's good to actually have people in the room who can actually fucking understand me when I talk.
Nah, you're all right, bro. Very, like, yeah, go on. What did you say?
I was just going to say, like, the fact that we're out here in Vegas and we've got you as a guest, it's amazing to actually be able to do that. So, I mean, as we are a VIP Vegas podcast,
Right.
A little bit about your background, your story, and why Vegas, why here?
Yeah, so you know, we've been working with you for a number of years now, actually, mate.
Yeah, quite a lot,
so,
man. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's been really good. So obviously, I don't sound like an American, hopefully. So originally from New Zealand, moved to America in 1994.
Wow.
Moved to America.
Yeah.
And started bartending in nightclubs in San Francisco while I was going to San Francisco State University.
What was the reason for that, Genghis? Just like out of interest, like what made you move in 1994 to the United States?
So I was an officer in the Royal New Zealand Army, Queen's Commission.
Okay.
Yeah.
For those of you in the UK. And I just, you know, I got out of the military after 7 years, and I just sort of, you know, most Kiwis, we do this thing called the big, I mean, you guys know, because most of New Zealand is in London half the time.
Yeah, they love it.
So we all do this big overseas experience, right? So I just decided, you know, screw it, I'm going to go to America and see what it's like. So I ended up, I moved to San Francisco. Well, actually, I didn't move to San Francisco when I first came out here. What happened is I had a friend. It's actually my ex-girlfriend in New Zealand. Her best friend was living in San Francisco, you know, San Francisco's like this hub for the gay community. He's a gay guy, so so he said, hey, but a good mate of mine, he said, hey, come over and hang out. And I said, okay. So I was stopping there. So I was going to go and teach snowboarding up in Montana. So I already had a gig lined up, everything.
Oh, okay, nice.
And then I sort of went to San Francisco, and within a matter of a week, I had a job in a bar and everything, and I didn't know anyone in America, and because I knew this guy Paul, he was like, man, just why don't you stay here, because you know I can introduce you people and help you make jobs. So it was great. It was one of the funniest things I'd ever done in my life, honestly, because you know I came from a military, like a staunch military background.
It's like two polar opposites.
Say,
Yeah, very serious. And then you're in the bars and that. Yeah.
And now like I'm working in bars and I'm living with 3 gay guys and a drag queen, which is literally
What a story.
Which is literally what ended up happening.
Yeah.
And it was funny because, you know, when I started out, like in San Francisco, like those were the only people I knew. So, you know, as a straight guy coming out of like a military background, it was a very it was a complete opposite. You know, you see
180.
Yeah, well, you see all this stuff going on, and it was really one of the funniest. Like I've never probably laughed so much in my life. Is that because the guy who owned the house that we all rented a room from, he owned one of the largest hair salons in the Bay Area.
Right.
So it was.
So you had loads of girls coming in and out, like from.
Well, that was it. So I knew all the hairstylists. You know, I was like 24 at the time, and I had all these hairstylists, right, who were either gay or lesbians, right. But they had all these women coming in, and they would be constantly, Genghis, come down here. I've got this girl for you to meet. Genghis, come down here. You know, because I was single at the time.
Yeah.
So it was like shooting fish in a barrel.
So you must have had an absolute field day, brother.
I will advise anyone, as a straight male, the best thing you can do to meet women is get a bunch of gay friends.
Yeah, 100%. The thing is, though,
So
that's what girls do, though.
good
Advice.
advice.
They hang around with gay guys, isn't that? And then they seem sort of, that's just how it sort of works.
That's what I sort of discovered by default, is because all my mates, most of my mates that I knew there were gay, they all went to gay bars, right?
Yeah.
So I'd end up going to gay bars, and when straight women go to gay bars with their gay friends, they have like zero defenses. Like they've got no boundaries or barriers.
Walls down,
So
I'd love to know his body count, bro.
it was
He's probably in the thousands.
It was absolute. So you go to as a straight guy, you're in a gay bar. The women automatically think you're gay, so they're coming up to you and talking to you, and so all the defenses are down, and it was actually a really good social experiment. Because, you know, at the end of the night, these women have spent the whole night talking to you, and they go, oh, do you have a boyfriend? I'm like, no, I'm straight. These are just my roommates. Oh my God. And then, you know, it was just, it was a whole
That's
nother
class.
world.
But then what was the next step from that, Genghis? So like you was with the gay guys and that. So when did you leave and then somehow end up in Vegas? Like,
well, I started, so I went, then I obviously started to get more friends in the Bay Area that were outside of the gay community. And then so I started working in bars, and I started working in a very popular nightclub at the time as a bartender.
Right.
And then I started going to San Francisco State University. And then I just started to know more people and more people and more people. And then I really got into the bar and club scene. And that's really like started out as a bartender, then as a bar manager, then as a general manager. And then I started managing places. And then in 2002, I met, in 2000 at the Bar and Nightclub Convention, which is in Las Vegas every year, I met a guy by the name of Mike Milner and another lady by the name of Candace Carroll. And Mike was the director of Nightlife for MGM Properties. So back then, the only nightclubs in town were Voodoo Lounge, Light Group, and Studio 54.
So Voodoo Lounge is probably the only one that's still going then. You're talking Rio, yeah? Yeah.
So I think, am I missing anything? I don't think I'm missing anything. Oh, and Rum Jungle.
Right, okay, yeah.
Right, so there are only 4 clubs, right?
That's wild.
And it was a completely different scene, right?
Wow.
Completely different scene.
Yeah.
So they said, hey, we're opening this new thing called an Ultra Lounge. So I became friends with them from the nightclub and bar. And then every time I come to Vegas, we'd catch up. And then in about 2002, they contacted me and said, hey, look, we're opening this new thing called an Ultra Lounge at the MGM. Would you be interested in coming out to run it? And I was like, well,
wow, that's class. Actually asking you to come out and run it. Not even just be involved, but just to run the whole thing.
Well, so I was the director of operations. Candace Carroll was the general manager.
Right, yeah.
And that's how the two of us worked together.
Yeah.
Actually, was it director of operations? I can't remember. Anyway, so I was like, I was taking a massive pay cut to come out here and work. And
sometimes that's how it goes, though. Sometimes you've got to take a step backwards to move forward. 100%. So it's good, and a lot of people, especially when they've got responsibilities, they're scared to do that. But that is probably sometimes the best move that they can make. Is like step
best thing
back.
I ever did.
That's exactly it.
Best thing I ever did. Yeah, because I sort of thought to myself, well, I know how big nightlife and bars are, and I was in San Francisco at the time, how big it is in San Francisco, the Bay Area.
Yeah.
And it's got to be a progression for Vegas. So they kept making me offers, and the offers kept going up and up and up and up and up. And it was still a massive pay cut for me. But I was like, you know what? I can always come back to the Bay Area, and I've got to give it a try.
Yeah.
So I came out here, and the name of the place was called Taboo.
Back. That's why. That's obviously like there's the club in London called Taboo and Mykonos now.
Yeah,
so it's probably not the same guys. It's just the brand. Yeah,
it's so we opened this Ultra Lounge, and at the time it was the most money per square foot ever spent on a venue, with the exception of like a Cirque du Soleil theater.
Okay.
In Las Vegas. So it was a big deal for the MGM, and it was a very small room. It really was a lounge. But we had technology that no one had ever seen before. We had the bars the back bars rotated. We had some of the best DJs in the world coming through at the time. And you could only fit 350 people in there.
Yeah. Really?
But the tables
this before the super clubs, really. This before,
So the tables were interactive. So these massive concrete tables, and we allowed the guests, if you had a table, you could dance on your table. So actually all the service was on the side, and these tables were interactive. So the graphics on the table would interact with the people dancing, which now it's all over the place. But back, in 2002,
back then that was a big deal.
23 years ago, that was a huge deal. So, I mean, we are the only nightclub that I'm aware of to be on the cover of Time magazine. We're on the cover of Time magazine. Yeah, I've actually got the cover. We're only nightclub in history.
That's basically so you come over to Vegas, and so when you opened that Ultra Lounge, that was obviously your go-to, like your first big opportunity here.
That was my first big opportunity, but what I didn't realize is, we won Best Ultra Lounge in the world 3 years in a row. So it just skyrocketed, and I had no idea when I came to do it. To me, it was going to be this really cool sort of bespoke little bar in the casino. But it turned out to be, I mean, I would literally go out at night and I'd just walk down the line and I'd just say, look, guys, I'm sorry. Here's a pass. Come back tomorrow and you can go to the front line, but you won't get in tonight.
This is the thing. When it starts getting that, when it's like that successful, I know it was only small, but and it was on Time magazine and stuff. I'm surprised, or maybe you'll say that you did do this, but I'm surprised you didn't sort of franchise it worldwide. Because if it was really smashing it like it was and the brand was strong, you could have made ridiculous money off franchising it worldwide like that. Just putting it out there.
I think everybody was surprised to the level of success it had. And at that time, casino, like up until very recently, and I think to me the game changer was probably Excess. Was the game changer. When casinos actually started to realize, holy shit, these things aren't just lost leaders for us. These things actually generate revenue. And I think it was probably Excess, maybe Trist before Excess.
Yeah, I remember Trist. Trist was class. We load of bottle deals there.
Yeah, mate. That was the spot.
For on a Thursday, especially, that was class.
Yeah. But so I think that was kind of what changed it. You know, I think that's kind of what made because at that point the casinos were like, yeah, we want it to make money, but if it doesn't, we don't care. We just want it to bring people through the door and have them walk past the slot machine. That was the thought process of the casinos. And now these things generate, like, it's huge. You cannot open a casino now without a club and a day club.
Nah.
Forget about it.
It's the same. That's what I was saying with Vegas, though. Like, with how it's gone, obviously, back in the day, it was, like, solely for the gamblers. And then the entertainment was on the side if they'd won or they'd lost. So they can drown their sorrows if they've lost, or they'll go and celebrate because they've won. Now, I feel like it's more... the entertainment comes first, and then the gambling's like a byproduct. That's how it's changed over the years.
I'm glad you went down that tangent, because I was wondering do you think all the way back then that you maybe had some involvement to the birth of, like you said, now the nightclub scene, the entertainment, the restaurants, the shows, all of that, like you said, because when Vegas was meant for the gambling, and that's what everyone, if they've never really gone, that's what they see Vegas as.
It's kind of interesting, like, if you take somewhere like Taboo, it's really, so I don't know if you know Natalia, who runs.
Yeah, I do really well. Yeah.
So Natalia was one of the first cocktail waitresses we hired at Taboo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Larson.
She's massive.
Larson was a busser at Taboo.
Yeah. Right, I didn't even know. That's
crazy.
Cy
Waits was my assistant manager, and Cy and Jesse ran Excess. Cy and Jesse, the twins. I don't know if you know those guys.
I don't know them guys, but I know Tyler and Larson. Yeah.
So, you know, we all worked together. So a lot of people that started at Taboo went off to become like super successful in that world. And I was just talking to Natalia last week. So we all still talk 20 years later.
That's cool.
Crazy, right? But yeah, I think that was really the sign, you know, because it was kind of like you said. Like we had I don't know if you've ever been to the mansion at MGM.
Yeah, I've been there.
Yeah. So we would get a lot of mansion guests come in.
Class in there, by the way.
I was going to say, you have to get like invited, don't you?
I think you do now, but I'm not sure. Back in the day, you probably could pay your way in.
Okay. No, it was actually the opposite.
Oh, right.
So back then, now you can pay. Now I think you can pay.
Right.
But back then, you had to be putting on the tables. It was.
Parties in there,
$150,000 a day on tables before they let you go into a room. But some of the mansion guests, one of them actually ended up being one of my dear friends. It's still to this day. But he was one of the biggest gamblers at MGM at the time, and that was a whole. And it was quite funny because the way I met this guy is he's Mongolian. And
that's how you got into the mansions through him, like gambling and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, and that's how I actually got in, and I wasn't allowed to go. So I actually got in trouble the first time it happened, because what happened is that basically he's Mongolian, and he heard, hold on.
Yeah,
he was talking to the concierge at the mansion, and he goes, "Oh, do you want to see this new lounge we've got called Taboo?" Yeah. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, okay." So let me give Genghis a call and see if we can get you a table. And he goes, "Hold on, you've got a manager here called Genghis?" And he goes, he's Mongolian, right? Genghis Khan.
Yeah.
So he's like, "Is he Mongolian?" And he goes, "I don't think so." He goes, "I got to fucking meet this guy." So the mansion calls me and says, "Hey, we've got a mansion guest coming over." And I said, "Yep, no worries." And so the mansion calls me up, and then the front door calls me and they say, "Hey, we've got the mansion guest here." And I said, "Oh, great." And I said, just his table set ready to go. And at the time, I actually had Benicio del Toro sitting at the table.
Wow.
So, and because he hadn't got a table, but it's the best table in the house. But this guy, they said, "Hey, he's whatever he wants is on us."
Yeah.
Just from the mansion. So I said, "Okay." So I go, and they say to me, but he wants to talk to you. And I said, oh, is there a problem? No, he just wants to talk to you. I'm like, all right. So I go rolling out there, and there's this little Mongolian dude smoking a cigarette, like he's going out of fashion, right? And he's like, is your name Genghis? And I said, yep. And he goes, is that your real name? I said, yeah, it's my real name. He says, but you're a white dude. I said, yeah, I know. And then he said, well, he goes, fuck, I'm Mongolian. He says, I've never met a white dude called Genghis. I could have a cocktail with you. So I rolled him in. I told Benicio del Toro, I was like pushing him over to the side. I'm like, sorry, this guy's table's here. Do you mind if he sits here? He says, no, he's fine. So he stays there with his friends. And this guy goes, have a drink with me. So I'm on the job, right? So, and I'm pretty new to MGM. So I'm like a corporate guy and I'm trying to do everything right. Yeah. Well, I'm like, I can't really drink. And I actually called up Mike Milner. I said, I got a mention guest over here and he wants me to have a drink with him. He goes, well, you can't really drink on the job. He said, look, just have a glass of wine. It'll be fine. Okay. All right. So I said, I'll just have a glass of wine. He goes, great. Give me the wine list.
So this was like 20 years ago, though.
Yeah.
I thought like Vegas was like a sort of, it was just like lawless. Like you could, if you was working for MGM, you could still have a drink and this, that, and the other. I thought it was only now, over the last sort of 10 years, it all got corporationized or whatever it called. It all just got a bit strict. But
it was probably even more corporate then, mate.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Right. So
I know guys that do get away with it. If they've got a big client, they can just be like, I'm having tonight off, and they just crack on with the client if it's a big one. No,
also,
but by the sounds of it, you couldn't really do that then. Is that what you're saying?
I had a goatee back then.
Yeah.
And they wanted me to shave it off.
Right, yeah.
And literally, Candace Carroll, who was the general manager, said, look, Taboo is going to be completely different. So back then, it was a union environment. It still is a union environment. But back then, what happened is that if you opened a new bar in a casino, you had to give first right to any job in that new bar to the most senior people at the casino.
Right, yeah.
So the problem we had is we're opening this ultra lounge, which is all about fashion and beautiful people and all that stuff.
To some like
and then we've got
spots and they're just like not really.
And we've got like this cocktail waitress that's been walking the floor for 27 years at MGM, and you measure her diameter before you measure her height, right? and we're like, okay, we can't do this. No. So we actually were the very first facility we created a position called a model server. So you had to qualify as a model to be a server.
Right.
And we had to do modeling events every month to meet the job qualification, so we didn't interfere with the union contract.
So, like now, you try and introduce that now, it's controversial, man. People are like, oh, you're sexist, you're this, da, 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 da.
It's all about inclusivity.
It's difficult. But what I was going to say is, like, to sort of like bring us back a little bit, like, so you come over to Vegas, you started doing the Taboo stuff, Ultra Lounge, that started popping off. Like, what was the transition? What made you sort of come out of nightlife and then start doing what you do now? Like, what was the point where you got and you thought, you know, I've had enough, or there was opportunity to do something else and you thought, let's go for that?
Really what it was is, I got so many long stories for you, but
I know this is the thing,
want to tuck into the stories.
This is what I said earlier, we're going to end up going for hours, so that's why I'm trying to like rein it back in just to see the path, you know what I'm saying? So
right, so basically what happened is I've been working for MGM for about 3 years. We were crushing it at Taboo, everything was going really, really well. And you know, I changed a lot of things, like that guy I told you who was a mansion guest. He basically, like him when he invited me to the mansion, and I said I can't go. He said fucking bullshit. So he calls up, at the time the guy's name was Bob Moon.
This the Mongolian guy that with the
He calls up Bob Moon, who's the head of casino marketing. So he's in charge of all casino hosts for all MGM properties.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And I'd only known Bob like 6 months, and he goes, Bob Jolsa, I want my buddy to come over and hang out with me at the mansions. Is that okay? Yep. Hands the phone. Genghis, this is Bob Moon. Hi, Bob. You can go to the mansion. Just don't fucking tell anyone. Okay, Bob. Well,
lovely.
So I go over and hang out at the mansion. Well, what ends up happening is that the director of the mansion found out about it. So she called the president of the hotel. So the president of the hotel calls Mike Milner, who's my boss, who calls me and says, you're in a lot of trouble. You went to the mansion. You're not meant to be in the mansion. And I said, no, Bob Moon. So Bob was cool. Bob
Don't tell me you didn't get kicked out of the whole thing because of this. That's what I think he's going.
No. So what ended up...
I didn't leave by choice.
No. So I'm just finishing this story for you because it's a funny story.
Yeah, go on.
So what ended up happening is that I wasn't in trouble, but they said, you cannot go into the mansion anymore. You can't. It's not, your employees are not allowed in the mansion. I was like, okay, so sorry, didn't know, new guy, blah, blah, cool. So my Mongolian mate comes back. He goes, look, hey man, come. He said, you're off next 3 days. Just come and stay in, because the biggest room in there is, I don't know, 10, 15,000 square feet. I mean, they're massive, right? He says, come stay with me. It's great. Just come hang out in the mansion with me. I got like 3 spare rooms. I was like, I can't, Jolsa. There's no way I can do it. And they're going, yeah, you can. He goes, yeah, you can. They said you could. I said, man, I got in trouble for that. You go, you got in trouble for that? Hold on. So what he does is he calls head of casino marketing. He says, I'm moving all my credit line and everything over to the Venetian for the next week so that my friend can come and stay with me, or you let him stay in the mansion.
That's class, isn't it?
Yeah. So what ended up happening is MGM, I was the only employee that was allowed to stay in the mansion. And I went and stayed in the mansion. And that was sort of, so that's sort of,
do you know what? No, I love the fact, yeah, that this guy, he's like seen your name and think, oh, there's a guy called Genghis. And the loyalty he's shown you just from that. And it sounds like you only really met him for like 5 minutes. Yeah. Is that quite big in your culture, like from back home and stuff? Like it's real like brotherhood sort of from the get-go sort of thing.
I think, what you find in Vegas is you meet so many interesting, I mean, I could literally do a 10-hour podcast on the characters.
This is why, we always tuck into
I'll try to, but yes, he and I are still friends to this day, and I'm going to his 70th birthday party in Mongolia next year. Class. And he's already taken me to Mongolia.
Right.
So he's a huge businessman here in the US. But we're still really good mates. And a lot of the good friends I now have are people I met through the nightclub business.
Same as that, really. I've met, I mean,
it's interesting how that is the area where a lot of these people, like especially high profile, it's almost like networking, because you're out and you're partying and stuff like that. That you end up being friends with these people. And the things that then you're able to do from the future, and then still being good friends with them today.
It's class.
It's such a, I think it's an underrated way that people don't think that that's how you can meet all these amazing people.
Those days in Vegas, it would not be unusual for you to have like Brad Pitt at a table, Clooney at a table, like, Christina Aguilera at a table, like.
This is why
all in one club at one time.
That might be why they were a lot strict to them, like as instead of saying to you about getting rid of your goatee and all that, because you don't know who's going to rock in. Now it's not as star-studded as what it was back in the day. I don't think. Like, from what I see, like you don't see as much. Obviously, you still see famous people like sportsmen and actors coming to town, but it's very few and far between compared to what it was back in the day. This was their hiding spot. This was their spot. You know what I mean? They could get away from all that and really let loose. So
we used to let a lot of them come in the back door. So they would. The good thing about Taboo is it had a back door, so it was easy to get people in and out. But to go back to your point, sorry, mate. You asked a question. Let's go.
That's okay.
Very bloody long.
We do it. It's right. We do it all the time.
So the way that I ended up getting out of the strip clubs, getting out of the nightclub, was kind of an interesting story. So I've been with MGM at that point for like 3.5 years, and I was doing really well. Like the club was killing it. They wanted to give me more projects to do, so everything was good, right? And then a buddy of mine gave me a call. He said, hey, would you mind having dinner with a buddy of mine? I said, oh, yeah, of course. Why, Jeff? He goes, he owns a strip club and he wants a new strip club general manager. And I told him about you, and he wants to hire a corporate guy because he's been having problems with his strip club because all the guys he's hiring are just like druggies, or they're trying to bang all the strippers or whatever. Wow. And he says, and he wants a corporate guy. And I thought you'd be a great. I said, Jeff, I'm not interested in doing that. I said, mate, I'm doing great here. I'm at the MGM. It's freaking awesome.
Yeah, but there's always a price.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I'm saying?
So
if it presents itself and it makes sense, then I mean, you never say never in a certain extent.
So he said, look, this, and I didn't know this at the time.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, would you at least just go meet him, because he's a friend of mine. And it would mean a lot to me. And Jeff, this guy Jeff, had helped me out a lot. I said, Jeff, yeah, mate, you've been really good to me. Say anything you need me to do, I'll go do. So anyway, I set up this dinner, and I happened to be talking to one of the guys who I knew in the casino, one of the casino hosts. And I was going blah, 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 blah. And he said, what to the weekend, blah, 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 blah. And I said, I'm working all weekend, but I'm actually, I've got a dinner tomorrow night that for a job interview, but I'm not going to tell you. He says, oh, really? He says, what's it about? He says, I'm meeting this guy, and I won't mention his name, but I'm meeting this guy. I mentioned his name. He goes, you having dinner with that guy? I said, yeah. He goes, do you know who he is?
Yeah.
No, I just know he owns a strip club. And they go,
he probably owns like strip clubs all over the world.
Well, not only that, he's let's just say he's Italian and comes from the south side of Chicago.
Okay.
And owns businesses in Chicago. He said, so you better be aware of what you're walking into, right? And I was like, oh shit, this is like
And your pal didn't give you the heads up on that?
No, not at all.
He just said, fucking,
just
go.
Yeah.
He's like, I've got this guy, he's opening a strip club. He don't want to give you the lowdown on what his history. Could be like Russian mafia or something.
Just walk into it. I had no clue, right?
Or Italian mafia.
I'm green as a fucking leaf, right? So I'm walking in there and I meet this guy, and he is literally, if you'd have taken an actor out of Sopranos, it's fucking him. And I'm like, oh yeah, wow. And like Italian, and so I go in there.
Tony Soprano,
big
belly and all that.
But white hair, jam jar glasses. But like actually today still a super great friend of mine, and probably one of the greatest business mentors I've ever had in my life, to be honest.
Okay, yeah.
But we just sat down and started talking and didn't talk anything about business, just talked about history and not about his business, but business in general in Las Vegas and the growth of Las Vegas and, you know, everything that he'd done in his life. Yeah. Mate, just so interesting. So...
Mate, that's how, honestly, that's, sorry to cut you in here, like that, basically, that's like with business, that sometimes, or a lot of the time, comes before what the business is about, what you're going to do, because you get a feel for that person. And obviously, if you can have a good chat about what, you know, they're into and this, that, and the other, it's like, if you're so bought into that person, you're more than happy to, you know, sign a contract with them, start working with them, because, you know, there's a vision and you know you can trust them and whatever else. So, yeah, sometimes that's the best way.
Exactly.
Like, just not even talking about the business or the role, just like talking about life.
Then they get to know you, and it's you talk shop for 5 minutes or whatever. But then they, like I said, all those different conversations. You go, oh, you know about history, you know this, you know that. That's where you really then get to build that bond.
It's true though. It's true though. Yes. And then you basically didn't, and you thought, right, I've got to work with this guy. Let's do it.
No, I didn't.
Oh shit! Fucking hell!
No, I didn't. Right. So what happened is that he said, well. And he said, well, do you want to come over and see my strip club? And I think I'd been to a few of the strip clubs, but I hadn't been to his. Yeah. But his was very famous. It was known as where the best looking women were. It had won best strip club the preceding 2 years in the world.
Still around now, or is it?
No, unfortunately not.
Okay.
No. I got another story for you, but I'll tell you off camera.
Nice. But takeouts.
Yeah,
that's it.
But what was really interesting is, so I go over to a strip club, and it was not like any strip club I've been to. Like, they had full-on burlesque shows. So he had Cirque du Soleil performers that, once they finished the Cirque du Soleil show, would come to the strip club and perform on stage. Like you know, the strong men, and it was amazing. It was super cool. And he said, so, you know, I'm looking for a general manager. I said, look, I feel, you know, so humble about what you offered me, and it's such a great compliment to me. I said, but you know, it's just not something I'm interested in this corporate life. And he was really cool. He says, you know, I totally respect that. He said, but I had a great time. You know, next time in town, let's have dinner again. I said, great.
Yeah.
So this happened about 4 times, right? And I just got to really like...
Oh, so you went 4 times every time he was in town?
Yeah, we'd go have dinner together.
Right, nice,
And what was really interesting, I found, is that I don't know who he'd spoken to, but all of us, because there was another strip club owner who was a very famous strip club owner, who owned a strip club called Crazy Horse, and
that's obviously still around.
He was a huge. No, well, this was the original Crazy Horse.
Right.
So if you see,
that's why it's called Crazy Horse 3 now, because that's like third generation.
So if you see the movie Ocean's 11, there's a scene in that movie with a stripper. Mm-hmm. That's in front of the Crazy Horse, the original Crazy Horse. Okay. And the reason for that is...
Same location, though?
No, it used to be on Industrial down the street from... And so 2 of the biggest customers there were the 2 biggest actors in Ocean's 11. They spent a lot of time there.
Wow.
So that's how it got in the movie. But the owner of that was one of the biggest gamblers in Vegas as well. He was like when we opened Taboo, they brought him in, and I had head of casino marketing, vice president of casino marketing, hotel president, like all the top brass in MGM brought him in.
Yeah.
And he was a big deal. Well, I became friends with this guy. And him and this other strip club owner didn't really get along. But they ended up becoming buddies through, I don't know if it was through me, but I definitely helped facilitate that.
Yeah, nice.
Anyway, long story short, he just kept offering me the job of general manager of the strip club, and I was like, no. And I said, I'm going to a director's position. He says, okay, I'll give you director of operations. I'll give you a little piece of the business. I'll do this. And it just got to a point, like you said, where the money was so much more than I was making, so much more.
Yeah, you don't need to
that I just couldn't turn it down.
Yeah.
So then I went and ran the strip club for about 3 years for him. Right. But when I did that, I did 2 other nightclub deals. So there was a very famous chef who unfortunately passed away, but his name was Kerry Simon. And he owned a restaurant in the Hard Rock called Simon's. And he was they used to call him the rock star chef. Just amazing guy. Yeah. So Kerry, so the strip club I ran was across the street from the Hard Rock, when it was the Hard Rock, which is now Virgin.
Yeah.
Kerry's restaurant wasn't there. So Kerry would come over to the strip club after the restaurant closed, and we'd hang out.
Yeah.
Great guy. Really, really good. He didn't even drink. He'd just come over and hang out. He liked hanging around the girls. Yeah. So we became friends. So then another buddy of mine was the owner of Thunder Down Under, who's an Australian guy, Billy Cross, who owns Thunder Down Under globally.
Yep.
And through Billy, and who used to come into Taboo back in the day, that's how I got to know Billy. I got to know another guy by the name of Mick Doohan. So Mick Doohan was 5-time world MotoGP champion, and his son, Jack, actually is in Formula One now.
He that's just man. I tell you what, Keith, your network's crazy. Yeah, yours, man. By the sounds of it, like obviously we were only sitting down for what, half hour now, yeah. But the amount, your network's wild, bro. That's what hospitality is really all about.
Well, Vegas back then, mate, was just a hub of, you just meet so many people. Yeah. And when you're involved in the hottest club, arguably in the world at that time, you just get everybody.
Yeah, of course. And then I'm just trying to understand this. Yeah. So you've gone from the ultra lounge stuff, then you've gone into the strip club for 3 years. Yeah. So what was the next step after that?
Well, while I was doing the strip club, I opened a place called Cat House. Right. With partners, and my partners were Billy Cross, the owner of Thunder Down Under.
Right, I see this.
Mick Doohan, who was a famous motorcycle racer, and we opened Taboo, which was an ultra lounge and restaurant, and that did really, really well. It was in the Luxor Hotel. And that did really, really well. And
that's when Luxor was popping as well. Yeah. That's when all Mike Tyson and all Tupac and all them sort of guys were around that way. Yeah.
So it was, and you had the Pure Management Group, and they had the nightclub LAX in there. So we had LAX and our Ultra. So we things were humming then. And then I got an offer so I had these 2 guys come to me, Bob and Jerry Greenberg, and they came. The guy Jeff Carlos, who introduced me to the strip club owner, where I was now working, he introduced me to Bob and Jerry Greenberg.
Did he give you the background on this person though?
Instead of
once again, only a little bit. Only a little bit, right? So he goes, hey, can you come meet these 2 guys? They want to open a bar and restaurant in Vegas. And I'm like, yeah, okay, Jeff, no worries. Of course. So I go meet Bob and Jerry Greenberg, and 2 of the most interesting. So Jerry was the president of Atlantic Records, and Bob was the president of Warner Brothers Records.
Okay.
Wow. These guys were fucking
This
legends.
is when music was fucking, you couldn't just stream it and all that sort of shit or copy it. This is when you had to go and buy the CD or the record. The record, that Jerry, was them times.
So when Jerry signed AC/DC, he told me the story of signing AC/DC. Craziest goddamn story ever. Like,
have we got time for it?
I was going to say,
man. We've got to try and 45 minutes is really our sweet spot for these. But maybe we'll have that for another one, bro. But go on.
But anyway, so I did a place called the Rainbow Bar and Grill. So the Rainbow Bar and Grill is across so if you go to Sunset Strip in LA, you've got the Whiskey A Go-Go, which is where, the Doors were the house band. So it's like, it's like
very famous,
it's like music mecca. So the Rainbow Bar and Grill, which was owned by Mario Margaleri, is literally across a little alley. It's like 8 feet. And it's world famous. Like the Stones would go there, Guns, like Mario in his office has this thing, which is, it's all the free pizzas he gave to Guns N' Roses while they had no money. And then the check they wrote him to pay for all their outstanding bills.
That's is that still there then? Is that
I think the Rainbow's still there, So we licensed the Rainbow and opened the Rainbow in Vegas across the street from the Hard Rock Hotel.
Right, I see.
With them, we had Motorhead came out and they did the groundbreaking. The Stones came and ate there when they were in town. It was a real cool place. So I did that one as well.
Mate, it sounds like you was kid like them days. There, it sounds like you was just was like killing it. Even though you are now still, I know that. But I mean, like your come up from coming over from New Zealand and then just, you know, doing a bit of bar back or whatever you call it, bar work.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're opening this gaff, you're doing that, you're getting offered contracts and blah, blah. Like, it's class. Like, I love hearing these stories, bro, because the development and how you are like now, it's
goes to show, doesn't it? When you were saying like, I'll keep rejecting it and when should I do it, and then like I said to you, sky's the limit. It just shows that when you go down that path and
but it's not surprising.
Keep going,
the way he is,
just speaks volumes about your character.
Well, I know with my character, I was just the right place at the right bloody time, you know.
And your character as well. And you get got to give yourself some credit. I mean, of course.
But you know, from there I did that, and then I did those two. I did the Cat House project, I did the Rainbow Bar and Grill project, and I was running the strip club. And then I just got to a point where I just had it.
Did you burning yourself out?
I burned out, mate. Yeah. I just, like, you know, 6 years of going to work at 10 o'clock at night, getting to bed at 7 o'clock in the morning. The human body, I don't care who you are.
We were talking about this slightly when we were on our way here, like just off the pod. Like people just don't realise how much of a balance it all is.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? So you having all of that going on.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, like you said, that it would come to a stopping point.
It came to a stopping point. And so I was dating a girl at the time.
Oh, then you throw that in as well. That's a job in itself as well.
Well,
so you throw that into the mix. It's just like, I can imagine, especially with that amount of stuff going on.
And she could be another whole podcast. Literally. But awesome girl. We're still great friends to this day. But, you know, she was on the Tiger Woods documentary and all. She had a really interesting business, but she would throw a lot of parties, and she said, look, I said, I've just had a guts full of this, I don't want to do it anymore. And she's like, well, you know, I'm doing all these big events, why don't you come and help me? And so I started helping her with events.
How did you, just quickly, like, when you said you had enough, how did you exit? Like, how did you negotiate the deal? Like, to, you know what I mean? Or did you just...
The owner of the strip club, who now was one of my dearest friends, he is actually the one who initiated. He says, you've got to go. He said, I can see this is just going to burn you out. It's going to burn me out. And he was in tears. Yeah, I think we actually both were, because it was like the end of an era, because we'd worked together for so long, and he felt so bad. And he said, but you've got to go. He goes, you haven't done anything wrong. He said, but you're just changing who you are as a person. You're getting burnt out. And I agreed with him. I said, so I can't do it anymore. So I ended up getting out of that. And then I was doing these parties, and man, we threw one party that people, I mean, that was almost 20 years ago, and people still talk about one of the parties we threw till this day. It was one of the
that's cool.
Where was that? In one of the venues, or like out in the desert, or what?
So she had massive clients. I mean, and when I say massive clients, I mean, back then there wasn't a lot of billionaires, and she had a lot of billionaire clients.
Wow.
And so these guys owned a massive company, and they always wanted excuses to come to Vegas. So they had a forklift driver in their company.
When he gets the call, Genghis is like, this is a fucking license to print money. So
they had a forklift driver in their company, and he was getting married.
Right.
And they all needed excuses to come to Vegas, right, for their wives and girlfriends. And they said, no, we've got this bachelor. So they threw a bachelor party for their forklift driver. Right?
Perfect.
Fucking the funniest thing. So this guy shows up, mate, and seriously, he's got a t-shirt on, a pair of jeans, sneakers, and a baseball hat. And he's never even been to Vegas. And he's eating at the best fucking restaurants. So they gave us a $500,000 budget, which was a lot at that time, to throw one night bachelor party. So
where did they even get that thing?
Like in them days as well,
that's like probably like $1 million now, or 750,000. You know what I mean? That's wild. That is.
So we rented out the basketball suite at the Palms Hotel, which was massive.
Yeah.
We called Vivid Magazine, which was Vivid Video, which was the biggest porn studio at the time. Right. We got there 15 top porn stars. We hired 80 lingerie models.
Oh, imagine the promo video for that.
We had Dave Navarro playing live guitar with DJ Scribble, because my girlfriend at the time was really good friends with Dave. So Dave.
But how much did you make, Genghis, from that party? That's what everyone wants to know.
6 figures.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Nice.
The budget coming is like, right, we'll take 100 grand, 400 grand budget on the actual food. But yeah, no, that's class though, man. And did it all go like had to plan? Like, was it successful?
It was insane. It was insane. Like, we had our own security team lining the hallway, because people started to hear about it. So Metallica showed up. weren't invited. Kid Rock showed up, wasn't invited.
No.
And we had all these guys coming to cake, and we come into the party, and the security, because
you could have made another six figures
just
charging
say,
them on the
just-
door.
yeah.
Like, you can come in, but it's going to cost you 10 grand. Like, now 10G. Yeah,
the security called me and they go, hey, Genghis, we've got someone who wants to come in. Yeah, I told you guys, if they're not on the guest list, they can't come in. Yeah, but it's Kid Rock. I said, fucking let him in. Comes rolling in with a big white fur coat. Yeah, it was it. Yeah, those
are the days where you, like, I'm assuming there wasn't really, or camcorders and stuff, and like, because obviously there weren't no smartphones and stuff, was there? So you didn't film it. It was just all up here, like memories moving. Yeah.
I mean, those days I think we had someone taking video. But, you know, I mean...
You sort of just lived in the moment, it weren't really a thing
we had 15 naked women
story,
in the pool, in the Palm Suite, because they had that pool that extended out. I don't know if you've ever been up there.
No, there was some really nice
suites. Yeah, so they had this pool that extended out, and they had, like, you know... It was insane, mate. It was the craziest party. I mean, I'm sure there's been crazier ones.
I was going to say, like, when I'm thinking,
I don't know, you know, that's
it might put Jordan Belfort's bachelor party. Yeah, his bachelor party.
It was that type of party.
Oh, was it?
Yeah. It was insane.
If that gets still talked about. Sorry.
Yeah. I know.
Today,
I know.
Like I said, no iPhones, no camera. Do you know what I mean? That just proves how wild it was.
That's one for the veterans, like it says on his t-shirt.
That's it. Yeah.
That was like one of the old school parties, but it was massive. So I did that, and I did those parties for a while, and then I was just like, you know, I just want to go and do something completely out of nightlife. So I ended up moving to Africa, and I got a gold mine.
Wow.
I started a gold mine in Africa.
Another 180 flip.
I moved, got a place in Accra, Ghana. And a buddy of mine who I'd met through the nightclubs.
That's what I was going to say. You obviously, because I'm thinking it's a bit wild for you just to get a plane to Africa and start there. So you must have met someone, and then that opportunity presented itself.
Someone I met through the nightclub business. He called me up and I said, "What are you doing?" He goes, "I'm in Africa." I said, "What the fuck are you doing in Africa?" He goes, "I'm buying gold." I said, "Really?" He goes, "Yeah, it's cheap here." And I bring it back. Actually, at that time, we started taking it to Dubai, and we're selling in Dubai. And he's like, "Yeah, we sell it. It's great." I said, "Really?" He said, "Yeah." So I started doing a little bit of research on it. I was like, wow, this is a great business. So I called up another guy I'd met, a hedge fund guy, who we were now friends. And I said, "Hey, I want to go to Africa. Can you send me $1 million? I'm going to go buy gold, and I'll split the business with you." And he goes, "Yeah, no worries." Sent me $1 million. I was gone. And that's what I did. I went to Africa, set up our own, you know, I learned a shit ton, man. I was going to go buy gold, and then I said, no, we're not going to buy gold. I'm going to start our own gold mine. We started our own gold mine. Then when we're doing the gold mining stuff, we started learning everywhere there's gold, there's diamonds. So then we started doing diamonds as well, gold and diamonds. So I did it for about 3.5 years.
Did you tap into silver as well, or not really?
No.
So with this, so along, let's say, sort of the timeline, was this, what, 10 years ago, 15 years ago? Or was this
15 years ago?
15 years ago, yeah. And then, so that sort of set you up to where you are now, like what all the African.
Well, no, what happened was so Tim, who you know, Tim, the way Tim and I met is when I was running Taboo, I was dating this girl, and we were together for quite a while, and it was Tim's ex-wife, and I was at the gym one day, and you know he's a big dude, right?
Yeah.
And he came, and I knew who when she said, "Oh, this is." I was at the gym with her one day, so I just said, "That guy's over there, is my ex-husband." Okay, cool. And then he comes walking up to me at the gym one day. And, you know, he goes, "Hi, I'm Tim. I just want to introduce myself. I know you're dating my ex-wife, but, you know, I'm totally cool with it."
What a guy.
And she said, so we became great friends.
Wow.
Right. And even after I broke up with her, he and I, like, stayed. So when I was in the clubs, he'd come and visit me. When I was in the strip club, he'd come visit. So we started this great relationship as friends. And then, you know, he's ex-military, I'm ex-military. So my partner, our partner, which was in Machine Guns Vegas, he was a hedge fund guy. That's the guy that I did that gave me the million, the gold deal.
Yeah.
So what ended up happening is that Tim, this all started because Tim calls me up when I was back at one point when I was back from Africa, and he goes, "Hey, listen, Tony Robbins has a house up in Sun Valley, Idaho, and his wife Sage doesn't know how to shoot a gun." And Tim at that time was working a lot with Tony, and he said, "Hey, can you help me get Sage some training on a gun?"
Am I right in thinking this is Tony Robbins, the motivation speaker? Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah. So we set that up for Tony. So Tony comes to town, but we said, "Hey, look, this isn't a promo thing or anything. It's just a very private thing for these people. So we went to a gun range here in town that supposedly had a VIP range, and he was going to be left alone. Well, I don't know if you've ever met him, but he's like 6'10".
Massive dude.
He's massive.
Yeah,
and everybody in America knows who he is.
Yeah.
So we go walking into and everybody wants a picture, and the owner wants a picture, and it just turned into a shit show. And I said to Tim, I said, man, we should start our own gun range, because if we're going to start doing more of this training stuff, which he and I have been talking about, we're going to start doing more of this training stuff, we really should have our own place. And that's what led to us opening Machine Guns Vegas.
Right, yeah.
And so we built Machine Guns Vegas as a training facility. And then as we started to do more research while we're building it, I'm like, you know what? Why don't we do this tourism stuff as well? Because it seems to make money. What we didn't know is that the tourism piece of it would be so much bigger than the training piece. I mean, before COVID, we were doing 40,000 tourists a year.
Wow.
Through the gun range.
It's crazy,
That's
man.
good.
Machine Gun Vegas, guys,
Machine
number
Gun
one
Vegas,
in Vegas.
yes.
Hit
Shout
them
out.
up. Yeah, you know. Oh, is that hat Machine Gun?
Oh, no, this one isn't. Sorry.
Oh, right, sorry.
No,
but I'm saying, get involved, guys. If you're coming to Vegas, either hit us up or hit up Machine Gun Vegas direct. We'll get you in there. Yeah. And mate, it's I've been to a few of the gun ranges over the years or whatever, but your one tops them all. Especially you've got like the private VIP bit out the back. You got the sofas out there, the big TVs, the private gun range shots, and that is, especially when you're in groups, it's like perfect.
Well, the cool thing, have you seen the new video system we have in there?
I haven't, mate, but we'll come and have a look. Yeah.
So the cool thing now we've got is that we have videos on video cameras. So whenever you shoot the gun, it produces a video for you.
That's cool.
And then when you come out, you'll see their screens, and you click on your video, and it's free. You just email it to yourself. So it creates a whole social media post for you right then and there.
Yeah, because obviously, like, you've got the target thing, and you can take that away with you, but now you can take a video as well. So that's even.
I've still got some of my targets still rolled up home, so I've got quite good groupings.
Yeah.
So, I'm proud of those. Exactly. Yeah.
So now, do you know what? I love it though, man, because like you've just adapted to your environment at times. What's been presented to you, you just take the opportunity, take the risk a lot of the time, which a lot of people are not happy to do, or and I think that's what life's about. I think life's about taking risks and just exploring opportunities when they present themselves.
1000%.
So that's class.
What would you say that is the thing you love about Vegas, and what is it you'd say you'd hate about Vegas?
Wow,
that's a good question actually.
Great question. I think the thing I love most about Vegas is how much of a small town Vegas is. Like, so if you know one especially in the nightlife industry, it was funny, like I was telling you, all those people that I've known over the years, like they've all gone to such heights within the nightlife casino industry. Yeah. And I love that. And I love the fact that someone who was a slot manager, 20 years ago is now the president of a hotel. Yeah. But I can still call him up and go, hey mate, how's it going? And he's still like, hey man, how are you? What do you need? You need anything, Sarah? It's like, just tell me what you need. You need a restaurant, you need dinner, whatever you need. And it's just, we used to help each other out then, and we still help each other out now. I love that. Over 20 years, which I think is great. Because sometimes people become successful and they forget about the people.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
And
they start thinking like getting above their station and start thinking they can't. So it's
but that really never happened here. We all help each other out no matter where we all ended up, which I think is really good. The thing I probably like the least, I think about Vegas is just how it's kind of lost its character a little bit. The character it had when I first came here.
Quite a few people say that actually.
It was
like a bit of its like sort of character and a bit and its soul, like what it had.
To be honest with you, if I had one wish to change Vegas, I wish the mob was still here.
Oh really?
Yeah. Because they
understood, like
there was something. I don't know if you've ever been to the Golden Steer.
I've been there, yeah.
So that was one of the.
You get a vibe when you walk in.
Yeah,
there.
You do. Yeah. That vibe is the vibe that Vegas, and honestly, Vegas was safer and run better when the mob was here. 100%.
Because there's a code. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's a code, and they understood it. Whereas when it gets like say very corporate and everything becomes very legal, and then I think where you were saying it's lost its character when it becomes very I don't want to use like social media-y.
Yeah.
I don't want to use specific
and a bit
ones,
more clean cut. Like you want it to be a little bit rough around the edges.
Yeah.
Like you need it to be, you know what I'm saying? And I feel
people come here to have fun. Yeah.
I've noticed that I've only been coming here sort of like 10 years, but I've noticed the change even since that time. So
well, and the other big thing, I don't know, and you guys may notice this, but I think, you know, there's a lot of stuff out there now, but I think I really don't like the price gouging that is happening. And I think that's I think it's starting to get addressed because people are starting to realise that, you know, shit.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I remember you used to be able to go out and have a nice dinner in a casino and for, you know, a couple $100 max.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't have you're at 400 now.
Yeah.
And, you know, making people pay for parking, resort fees, all of this kind of stuff.
The average room price as well.
Yeah,
It just keeps getting pushed up. And
I think they're starting to see it now. I think they're starting to understand, hey, because when I came to Vegas, you know, a buffet was $19. I went to dinner with 3 people at a buffet, and it was nearly $400.
Yeah,
at a buffet.
It's wild. It's wild. This is the only thing, like I do get it to a certain extent. I know, obviously, you think about inflation, like $19 now is probably like 30.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But when I look at it, with like the car parking and this and that, you think, are they doing that because of the loss of revenue from elsewhere, as in the gambling? So they're thinking, shit, if we don't charge people for parking or try and get extra little quid there, resort fee, blah blah blah, like our revenue, it keeps going down. So we need to try and get it back from somewhere because the gambling's more online now and stuff like that. So that might be the I'm not saying it is, but I'm saying that could be the reason why. Because you know,
I think you're right, mate. I think what they did is they built these monolith properties that require a certain amount of money to run.
And a lot of them are running at a loss.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? Well, the grand scheme of things, a lot of them, maybe not the Win Encore places like that, but a lot of the other ones.
So you know, it was funny. I have a few favourite restaurants in town, but some of them I just won't go to anymore. And the reason I won't go to them is I have a group of guys who we're all Vegas guys, and we go out and we have these dinners every now and again. And you know, we were saying, shit, there was 5 of us at dinner, and we between the 5 of us we'd pay $225 in parking.
Fucking hell, really?
For dinner. So we'd gone and spent $500 on a dinner.
Yeah.
And then we'd spent $225 between the 5 of us to park there.
Yeah, see, that's where they need to step in and look at the process. And it's like, because back in England, they probably got it out here as well. But if you go to a supermarket and you actually shop at the supermarket, you don't pay for the parking.
Yes.
So you just show your receipt and whatever else. But what probably is happening, a lot of people that are not even using the restaurant are using the car parking and doing whatever. And so, do you know what I mean? It's just getting like that. But
I was going to go down
it should
that
be a
road,
situation where you've spent that, so you don't pay for the parking, or you get it reimbursed because you got the.
I think that was where it came from, with the fact that they gave you all this, you know, the comps and the free parking and this, that, and the other, because they expected we're going to make the money back anyway because they're all going to gamble.
Yeah.
And now,
because they've not gambled,
the dynamics change. And goalposts don't keep moving.
Well, you're right, mate. The dynamics change, but what also changed the economy, right? So, what's really interesting now is if you look at the type of, like, have you guys been to, say, Guest House in Town Square?
I've been Town Square. I don't know if I've been Guest House.
Okay, so maybe we should all go have dinner there, because I know a mate of mine is one of the owners there. Guest House is one of the nicest restaurants, I think, in Vegas from an interior perspective now.
Is that the one on the corner, like near Blue Martini? Is it like?
It's kind of near Blue. It's newish.
Yeah,
it has valet parking. I might have
seen it. Yeah,
you can turn right up. They have a DJ. Oh, wow. It's the whole original crew from STK. So STK was started by an English guy called John, and John Siegel, he's a friend of mine. John Siegel, he's a friend of mine. His family comes from Jersey.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Jersey's like that's like.
So he started
he started
STK and he started
Tax Haven.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What's that? No. What's that other? Really, it's a really big restaurant in St. Bart's and also in LA. Oh, shit, I can't remember the name of it, but he opened one here as well. But anyway, but back then in STK's heyday, it was all about getting good-looking women in there, serving good food, and creating a vibe. And they've done a really good job of it. And what's starting to happen now is if you go there go there on a Thursday night, or go to Esther's Kitchen, which is downtown Vegas.
I've heard about that one. Yeah, that's Art District, isn't it? That one?
Go down there on a Thursday night, see how busy and packed it is, and then go to a restaurant in Resorts World, or go to a restaurant area and see how not packed it is. And the reason for that is people through social media are now saying, shit, I can take a $6 Uber, get as good or better experience, and at 2/3, half the cost. And so the casino now, some of the really good places to eat and some of the great restaurants aren't even in the casino.
Exactly.
They're just you're just off strip. And that's really starting to happen.
I was going to say, to wrap this up, where do you think the future is of Vegas?
Good question. That's going to be heavily based on what the casinos do.
Yeah.
I think if the casinos, this is just my opinion, so you know, I'm sure they have people way smarter than me trying to figure this out. But if they don't think about going back to what Vegas was, which was, you know, cheap rooms, I think they've either, if gaming's going, they've got to make up for it with entertainment.
Yeah, because a lot of the generation now are less gamblers, less drinkers.
And they're trying.
Yeah, with like the Oakland A's coming in, the Raiders, and you've got Sphere. Like all this sort of stuff. So yeah, it is going in that direction, definitely. Yeah. I think they've realised that. That's going to be the forefront.
Because if they don't do that, then my concern, I mean, if you look at tourism numbers to Vegas, where they're at, they're not good. And they're projecting Vegas to have up to a 20% drop in tourists in the next 2 years. Now, a lot of that's economy-based, right, too? So think about how strong the US dollar is against, especially, like I just had friends here from Australia, and their money's worth half. You know, so, and I mean, you go out to a steakhouse now, a steak's $100. So to an Australian, it's a $200 steak. Yeah. No, better steak in Australia.
Yeah. But I tell you, do you know what? The other thing I would say is, right, with the whole, you know, like when you look at these charts and that you say the visitors are 20% down, stuff like that, what you have to do, though, really, is look at what's been going on. So, like, for example, Super Bowl last year, the amount of traffic that drew into Vegas, but then you look at the numbers, right, this year, and you think, oh, we're down 20%. Well, of course you are, because you had one of the biggest fucking events last year, so you can't really...
It's the same with
Do you get what I mean? Like, you have to be very careful when you're looking at these year-by-year analysis and stuff, because people just think, oh, we're down 20%. But then there's things that happened last year, Super Bowl being one of the main ones, that is just bringing the whole of America into town. So it's going to...
F1's casinos like over $1 billion just from gambling alone or something. Yeah, it was something, or $4 billion or something just from the tables and slots alone.
I think not even the rooms. Yeah, those were one. I will tell you, having been here for 23 years, that the last Super. So what? I think there's a lot of factors, right?
Yeah, I'm not just saying Super Bowl, but I'm just using that as an example because that's a massive occasion, and that brought a shit ton of people into town. So, you know,
what's interesting about Super Bowl is that you didn't used to be able to gamble online. You didn't used to be able to. There weren't casinos in other states. So what used to happen with Super Bowl is everybody used to come to Vegas so they could watch the game and bet on the game. Yeah, and it was a massive party weekend. Yeah, the Super Bowl weekend we just had is by far the worst Super Bowl weekend in the 23 years I've been here. Yeah. I mean, it was ridiculous. Like, everybody I knew in the industry's calling me going, what?
Yeah. They just come for the actual event, but nothing else like outside of that,
And you got to think, we had the election, so there's all the uncertainty around that, there's uncertainty around the economy, that, you know, the economy's not doing well, the prices are way higher than they used to be, I can watch the game at home, I can gamble on it from home, like all these things, like airfares were more expensive. So you're right, mate, there's so many contributing factors.
There is, you've got to look at it like that as well. You can't just look at it from one thing, say, look, these were the visitors last year, these are the visitors this year. Yeah. It's a shame because where we've got in this world of social media and all these influencers and stuff, they'll take that one comparison from visitor numbers, because we talk about special events, blah, 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 and then they'll blow it up. Vegas is dead, Vegas is down 20%, this, that, and the other, when there's so many other factors to take into consideration. That's really
and
what people have got to think about.
Formula One was a great example. Like, Formula One's coming. To watch Formula One on TV in Vegas, I think it's one of the best ones to watch on TV. But I think it's one of the shittiest ones to go to in person. I'm just being honest.
I don't know. Watch it when you're there. It's just like,
I mean, like, so one of my friends sponsors the Red Bull car.
Yeah.
So, you know, we were in the Red Bull.
In the paddocks and all that.
Oh, I was in the Red Bull garage looking inside the car. I mean, we had great
That's the experience you want. Obviously, not everyone can do it. That's how I do it when I go to them. But like you say, actually being there and watching it, it's not much. People are just there for the occasion.
Exactly.
A lot less than actually watching cars zipping past 160 mile an hour.
So we have some big clients from Mexico, and they called Esther and I, and they were like, hey, we want to get tickets. By the time we priced out the whole thing for them, they called us back and said, yeah, we're going to go to Monaco. It's cheaper.
Yeah,
from Mexico.
But I think that price, because obviously it's still quite new to Vegas, to F1.
Yeah.
As time goes on, I think the pricing will sort itself out, because a lot of people, you know, they see it and think, nah, it's way too expensive. Because you're right, you could go Monaco for a lot less.
Yeah. I read a statistic when you were talking about the online gambling. Apparently, over 50% of like the young males of America all have an online gambling account.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like you were saying about it's more of an event to go to now. Similar, we spoke about previously, people want more for their money and stuff.
Yeah.
Cinema, like we use as an example, is more of an event now, because you can stream everything and you can have it all cheaper. But I think you're right that if Vegas doesn't, like you said, there's probably people in rooms talking about this all day, you know, the big CEOs and that, or whoever. But if they don't start to change that and see the direction that it's going,
I think they're going to have to pivot. I wouldn't be surprised if we start to see things like all-inclusive chains come here.
Interesting.
I wouldn't be, and with no gaming.
That's actually an interesting point, because you don't really see that, do you, over here?
But I always get some older members of my family, oh, you got an all-inclusive or half-board? I'm like, that's not really how Vegas works. Yeah. But
I think that's one of the main things, and not just like Vegas, but any business. You've got to be quite aware of what other places are doing, what other businesses are doing, or what other countries are doing, you know, and that's obviously a big threat to Vegas as well.
Do you guys think that would work for a British? Like imagine if you had, imagine if you had an all-inclusive place that had awesome DJs, amazing pool, you know, fantastic restaurants, all of that kind of thing, but it was all-inclusive and you stay at that.
100%, mate, because it's familiar to us, and that's you know, that's what people do. They buy in, and because they're used to certain ways of being, that's what they're attracted to. So I think it'd do really well out here, and it's obviously a unique selling point, like an all-inclusive resort in Vegas. Wow, like blah blah blah.
You'd be doing something different to all your competition as well if you did that as a property. This has been really cool, though. Honestly,
no, it's been good. Good having you guys.
Really appreciate it.
Well, you having me.
Having you.
Do you think of anybody in your massive network who you think would be quality to get on VIP Vegas?
I can think of a lot of people. I got a bunch of people you guys should talk to.
Okay.
Yeah, I think at least, you know, we'll sit down and I'll sort of put a list together for you.
Perfect.
That'd be good for you guys.
Hope you guys all appreciate this episode, and again, thank you for Genghis coming on the VIP Vegas podcast.
Thanks very much, Genghis. You've been quality, mate.
Thanks, mate.
Yeah. Where can everybody find you?
Just Machine Guns Vegas, mgvegas.com, so you guys can see what we do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right then. Thanks awesome, all. Guys. Take care.
Till next time.